on a path. It's a pretty nice path as far as paths are concerned. You can imagine that there's flowers guiding the way, a tall tree where the birds can sing, and the sun above me is shining brightly. Maybe a bit too brightly, because I find that I get this dryness within my throat, and I realize that maybe now it's time to take a break. And I notice just down the path I am in luck, because there are 2 fountains waiting for me. Now that first fountain, it is an immaculate structure. It is made of granite and limestone, and at the center is a pedestal, and on top of that pedestal is a broad-chested man with a big beard, and he's holding this huge urn. And from that urn there comes perfect, clear, pristine water that falls into the basin below. It's marvelous to look at. But then there's the other fountain. This one that's across the way, this one that seems to be overgrown with weeds. Sitting within its basin is this greenish liquid that seeps out through the cracks within its foundation into the ground below. And on its pedestal there is indeed another figure, but this figure is cracked, it is broken. And yet, upon its expression, I see a familiar face. To be honest, it reminds me of my mom. Because you see, I didn't play sports the way other kids played sports. While they were running down the field, chasing after the ball, I preferred to be on the sidelines where the wildflowers grew, the red ones with the black center, and the blue ones that were shaped like hearts, and the yellow ones, the fluffy ones, the daffodils. I would wrap them into little bouquets, and after practice, I would present them to my mom. And of course, she would accept them with a smile upon her face, a smile that would slowly change into a look of worry and concern, as she repeated to me the words she often repeated to me. Oh, my baby boy. My baby boy? My baby boy? I don't really know what she meant when she said this. I guess it's kind of true. I was indeed the youngest of my family, the youngest of 3 brothers, and I was definitely the more sensitive one, the one who found himself afraid of thunderstorms, the one who found himself afraid of fireworks, and amusement parks. Any excuse, really, to run into the comfort of my mom. You know, one year, my brothers and I, we got together, and my dad guided us to the Netherlands so we could visit my opa. And my opa was so excited to see us that he surprised us with a trip to the Efteling. And he was so excited to take us to the Efteling that he brought this giant 1990s-style video recorder with him. And on the background of that recording, you can hear one thing: the sound of me crying. It's only as I got older did I begin to realize how the sensitivity might be a bit of an issue. It was on the playground where I began to draw lines between the cool kids. They were the kids that I wanted to be friends with. And then there were the other kids. These were the kids who walked or talked just a little too differently. They were the ones who were laughed at whenever they weren't in the room or pointed at whenever their back was turned. I wanted nothing to do with these kids. In fact, I was nothing like these kids. I, myself, was a normal kid. It's just, there happened to be something wrong with me. But that's okay, because I know that deep down inside, somehow the waters within this fountain are going to fix me. So I start to drink, and I find that its cooling touch quells the parts of me that just flow a little too freely. This fountain, it tells me a secret. You see, the trick to having confidence is letting others believe that you have it. This works. This, a magic spell. Suddenly I went from that shy, awkward kid into this strong, confident man, charismatic. Except there was one problem. The expression on my mom's face, it never changed. I would go back to her and I would see that familiar expression of worry and concern as she repeated to me those words that she often repeated to me. Oh, my baby boy. My baby boy, my baby boy. I don't like the way she said it anymore. I don't know why it made me upset. Maybe it just didn't fit this narrative I had growing for myself. And so I left. I went from Canada to the Netherlands in search of a version of myself that I could believe in. And it worked. I did pretty good. I got a job managing a small team. I went back to the Efteling, this time without any tears. I did my embarking. I got a home for myself. And I had friends back home telling me how proud they were of me. And in seeking their approval, I could feel proud of myself. And then the world changed. Lockdown began. And I found myself staring at the screen of my laptop when a message appears from upper management. There's going to be some restructuring, they say to me, and I'm told to be brave as I tell my team that they will no longer have a job. And I'm told to remain professional, even as I too am offered severance. Suddenly this sense of confidence I had built in myself, it begins to waver, it begins to crumble, it begins to flow, and all I can do is stare at that statue and look at how his perfectly sculpted arm manages to hold that urn and say to myself that I too must carry that burden. And so I continued to drink. But this is the thing they do not tell you. That which tastes like medicine, that what helps you feel like you belong, over time it becomes poison. But I continued to drink, and I continued to look at that man at the center, even as I find myself becoming as stone as he is. And I try to take a breath, and I can't. I just can't. It's like I've forgotten how. And I have to wonder to myself, if I'm going to suffocate alone in my apartment, as I ask myself, how long will it be before anyone even finds me? Days, weeks, months? Waiting in the other fountain is a concoction that bubbles like a witch's brew. It looks like poison. It tastes like poison. And by the time it enters into your system, it feels like poison. But it's a kind of medicine, if you allow it to be. She tells me that I'm not brave. She tells me that I'm not confident. And in this moment of self-doubt, she asks me, just who exactly were you trying to be? She tells me that it's time to collapse. It's time to let the oppressive concrete crumble until there's nothing but wet stones stuck with the wet earth. And so I sink. And I feel afraid as I hear the sound of the thundering earth rolling in above, leaving me entombed, leaving me to wait, leaving me to decay, leaving me to form into some former version of my former self. I realized something. It's still down here. It's quiet. Maybe now I can just get some rest. But it's not death that I am facing, but rather it is a returning. As the earth compounds me again into a figure of dirt and clay, I rise up and feel upon my cheek wetness. As I weep, and in doing so, give to myself the gift of air. It's after some deliberation that I decide to share this story with my mom. I want to tell her what happened. I want to tell her about the panic attack, how I had lost the ability to breathe, and how I'd almost died, and it felt like that was okay. And through the screen, I'm met by a familiar expression of worry and concern. It's followed by a question. What is it that you exactly want within your life? And I'm frustrated because I don't know. I had been on this earth for 3 decades and I don't know. But maybe now that I've seen the finish line, it might be time to start choosing a new path. When this conversation ends, the expression on my mom's face changes from worry and concern into a smile as she repeats to me the words she often repeated to me. Oh, my baby boy. Thank you.